suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Here's a good one that we prepared earlier. David Whiting, Melbourne solicitor, answering your calls and dealing with your problems. 1300 222 774. David, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia.
Before we get into it, can I just quickly say this? Many people on text wanting to make today the day that we find Eric the Dalmatian, who is a therapy dog, an assistance dog who has gone missing from Cranbourne, last sighted, I've been told that I should say spotted the Dalmatian, but I don't do that kind of stuff, David. Last sighted in Clyde. The suggestion here, if you set up a Facebook post, it'll be easier for communication. There are lots of applicable groups like Lost Pets of Melbourne that it can be posted to. These groups get a lot of coverage. If you know anything, please do text us or better yet, call us 1300 222 774 and we'll try and hook you up. David, any homework from last week?
No homework, but we had Jennifer from Gippsland.
Yes.
And Jennifer was 71 years old with health issues, assisting her son in relation to a family law matter. And the week before, there had been an order made relating to access, and the order noted that as her son wasn't able to drive, she was responsible for facilitating contact with the child's mother.
Yes.
And she was worried about the consequences of the extended lockdown. That's and right. What it meant. And the answer would be... Did she have
to abide by the court orders? Yes.
She's obliged to abide by the court orders. I think it would be in Jennifer's best interest to always carry a copy of the court orders with her. If she chose not to, then it's a factor that the court would take into account if an action was taken. But the starting proposition is you either comply with them or you or you try and reach a variation with the other party, or you apply to the court for a variation. You simply can't come along and say, I'm really very sorry, I'm going to disobey a court order. Right. In my view, the cost is too high.
And we did have this discussion last year, exactly this discussion with an expert in family law who was standing in for you, actually, Caroline Council, and it was precisely on this issue. And it was clear then, two things. One, the court is open and available for emergency hearings of such matters. But two, taking a child to be with another parent or an adult fulfilling a court order was a legitimate reason to get in your car and travel across boundaries. So,
still.
It still is. It still remains the case. Yep. An update also from a talkback caller, Jenny, yesterday about a woman who was stuck in her apartment since last Friday waiting for a COVID test in the public housing block in Hyatt Street, Richmond. She had a toddler and her mother who was ill with her. She wasn't able to leave them and go downstairs and have her COVID test. Well, because of the great work of, we're being told, Councillor Herschel Landers, she's now been tested. She's waiting for a result and she's had a delivery of nappies and food. And that is because the community of Melbourne and the people who represent the people of Melbourne are marvellous. And when everyone puts their noses to the wheel, although probably not advised really to put your nose
shoulders to the wheel, something to the grindstone?
Something should goes to the wheel and something goes to the grindstone and something should just stay in your mask, I think. Then good things happen. Over to you, 1300 222 774. Let's start with a tree story because they're always very illuminating. Jolene in Bayswater North, good morning.
Good morning.
What's happening?
I lived in a unit which backs onto the Dandenong Creek Trail, and over the fence there are some very tall pine trees which are very scary in high winds. And I tried to contact the Maroondah Council, which is our council, to see if they can do something about them. And they told me...
Yes. Joel, I would have thought that the Dandenong Trail would be an issue for Melbourne Water.
Yes. So I contacted Maroondah Council, and they said, no, they're not. It's not their land. And they asked me to contact Knox Council, and I did. And they told me the same thing and asked me to contact Melbourne Water. And Melbourne Water told me the same thing. It's not their land. So I wonder, David, if you can direct me to where whom I should contact. to stop it?
My recollection is that it would be Melbourne Water. If you would like to take the matter further, then I would be starting with your local Member of Parliament and find out who's responsible for it. But if it's a trail along a waterway, then it will almost inevitably be Melbourne Water.
Okay.
So if I ring them, I already rang Melbourne Water without success. So
Are there any signs at the road crossings where the trail goes near a road, which would indicate who's got responsibility?
I tried to look for signs, and there is a Maroondah Council sign further down East Swan Way, but towards this way, there are no signs at all. There are signs on the other side of the creek, which is the path, and they belong to Knox Council.
So we might be in this interesting issue where that's the boundary between the two local government areas.
So what happens in that circumstance, David?
Well, it would be the general rule is that it's the waterway that's the barrier, and so if that's the case, then it sounds more and more like a Maroondah Council issue.
Being suggested here that Parks Victoria might be the one to help someone on text is writing, David?
Yep, that would be helpful.
Try that too, or maybe, as you say, refer to your local MP.
And they will be able to find out very quickly who's responsible for it.
Sorry, we can't be clearer than that, Jolene. That's the best help that we can give you, but good luck with that. Sarah in Reservoir, how can we help? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call, Virginia and David. My question basically is whether the developer has a duty to disclose that there is an embedded network and that my water and gas meters will be locked up in a central location. Quickly, the background is I've just settled on a townhouse and I've just discovered that the development is in an embedded network tied to one electricity retailer. This is
Interesting question, Sarah. I would have thought not. There's certain disclosure obligations under the Sale of Land Act, and they're required to tell you who the services are provided with, whether services are connected or not, but they're not required to tell you, and this is becoming more and more common, particularly in the larger developments.
Yes, it's unusual for a townhouse. And also the fact that they've locked up my gas and water meters, and I had suspected a leak in the gas connection.
But Sarah, aren't the meters in common property? Do you not have access? Well, why do you not have access to your region meter?
It's caged up. And I had to ring for the building manager to come down and to turn off the valve. So I could have easily done that if they'd put the water and the gas meters in my garden. I could easily go out and just turn them off. Now, with the electricity, it's not an issue because I've got a fuse box within the house. I can turn off my electricity if there's a short or something. But I just thought, are these sufficient enough to be considered material facts in a contract or sale? And I hear from you that they're not sufficient.
I wouldn't have thought so. The material facts is a different section of the Sale of Land Act. I would not have thought so.
Okay. So what should happen next, David?
Well, there's nowhere else to go at this stage. It's what's happened is that instead of having a meter in front of each property, they've put all of the meters in a central location and then serviced properties like Sarah's from the central location rather than put the meters next to the units.
Which I've seen happen in other places before. That's not that unusual, is it?
No. And my view is it will become more and more common over time.
All right. So sorry we can't take that any further. Heather in Hampton, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia. How are you?
Well, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm wondering what I can do. I have a grandson who lives in Queensland, and I have court orders for him to be brought down to Melbourne for the school holidays, the week of the school holidays. And my son is refusing. They don't seem to consider that he is allowed to travel by air on his own. As an unaccompanied child, they can travel with a flight attendant with them, and they're just refusing to let him come, and they're using COVID as a...
When you say they, who's the they?
Oh, my son and his wife.
Okay.
Then I presume there is a court order in place, is there, Heather?
Yes, there are.
Then you've
There's
really
quite a
got the
few.
reverse of the call we had last week
That's
from
right.
Jennifer, where she didn't want to exercise, she didn't want to provide access, she didn't want to take the child, so that's
Yeah,
not that
yeah.
different. Heather, there's an order, you can bring enforcement proceedings. That's not very helpful because it's going to be very expensive.
Yep.
But that would be your process. Your son would appear to be in breach of the court orders.
Yes. Yeah. Consistently.
And
Unfortunately.
well, without going into the backstory, David, does that mean that Heather has to make a court appearance?
I mean, in a sense, that's the ultimate frustration, Virginia,
Yeah.
is that if someone flouts a court order, the whole system works on the basis that everybody will, sooner or later, obey a court order. And when you get people who deliberately flout them over time, they affect so many people.
Of course, but you're in no doubt that this court order would allow people not only to travel between 5 and K zone restrictions, but over state borders.
Yes, it would, but there might be. You'd need to look and see what the rules are about people coming from interstate to Victoria. So there would be nothing to prevent the grandson travelling, but we may have a law or a ministerial direction at the moment that
About
might
quarantining.
prevent the child travelling.
Well, no. Well, also there will be a quarantining requirement.
There might be, yes.
No, there will be. There is. We don't let people in from interstate for that reason. So it is more complicated than that. We might have to leave you there, Heather, to try and appeal to the courts. And there is a 24-hour number you can call. If you go online, you'll find that.
Okay. Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
Sorry, we can't take it any further. Pam in Gippsland, good morning. Don't feel like we're being much help today, David. We'll see if we can.
No, having a bad day.
Having a bad day. Pam, good morning.
Hello. I've got an estate problem. I'm the sole executor on my brother's estate, a small estate with no property, and I engaged a solicitor to assist. They estimated it would cost approximately $5,000, which I've already paid a progress payment on that, and now I've received a further account that it's reached the end, and it's approximately another $5,000, so it's double what she initially estimated. And I've discovered on the itemised bill that there's been a lot of contact with the beneficiaries, and I feel that that's probably increased the cost considerably, and I wondered how I would go
Pam, I would dispute it.
contesting it. Yes.
No,
So-
I would have thought without a great deal of difficulty. There's you're obliged to provide, there's 3 levels of disclosure required. There's none if the bill is less than $750 plus GST and outgoings. There's a limited requirement where it's less than $3,000, but you're in time. I would have thought that they have an ongoing obligation to bring you up to date with costs exposure, and they would appear to have failed, and my view would be you have the right to dispute the bill.
Okay. All right.
So you could endeavour to resolve it. You can talk to the Legal Services Board. The Legal Services Commissioner runs a what I'll call a dispute resolution process where the account's less than about $15,000. You could take the matter to VCAT, or you could take the matter to the Costs Court. And one of the important factors will be what was the estimate you provided at the outset.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Michael in Maryborough, good morning. How can we help?
Good morning. Just prior to Easter, I had an earth mover do some earthworks for me. He finished the job that he was requiring the bulldozer for, and I paid him in full. But he's left the bulldozer here and said he'd be back in the week after Easter. It's still sitting here, and I've contacted him several times and asked him to come and remove the bulldozer.
What does he say?
He says, look, it's been a bit too wet, but yeah, I'll get there in the next day or two. And each time he has a series of excuses.
How big's the
and
bulldozer?
Well, it's It's a big bulldozer that backfilled a dam. So,
It's a big bulldozer.
Yeah.
Does it work? Is it still working?
Well, he locked it up and, I can't, otherwise I'd take it for a spin around the block, but I can't get to it. And, while it's not in my way as such, because we're on a farm, every time I look out my living room window, I see it. And, it's just now become quite an annoying thing where he's just basically using my land as storage, and he refuses to. Well, he hasn't refused. He just says, "Yeah, I'll be in the next day or two," and doesn't turn up.
David,
So
what do we do about the bulldozer?
An application to the magistrates' court for it to be for an order that it be removed.
Right.
And again, it's the frustration of the system, Michael. We could call it unclaimed goods, but the effort that would be involved in you dealing with a earth mover or a bulldozer on your property would be frightening. You would be better off to seek an order at the magistrates' court that he move it.
Maybe I'll just
and pay your cost, but you're still going to be out of pocket, Michael. Whatever you do, it's going to cost you money to make it go away.
Yeah, but also he can't flog it, David, because it's not his.
No, I was going to put his phone number on it and just so he gets hassled with people wanting to buy his bulldozer for $10.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Oh, I quite like that one.
Yeah, it's quite good, actually.
With his number, going cheap. Yes.
Would people actually be able to spot that number from the road, though?
No, I put it in one of the budget classifieds or one of the country papers or something.
Michael, is there
a chance? A fight with you.
Michael, is there a chance he might be hearing this conversation on the radio?
Knowing the type of fellow he is, probably not, but maybe someone will let him know.
Right.
He's a good guy, but he's just a strange unit.
And just a bit disorganised. Yeah. All right. So
also, Virginia, there's the other issue that there's an awful lot of effort in moving a bulldozer.
Sure. Yeah.
He's probably got to go and hire a low loader to pick it up, and he'd rather just move it from job to job than move it to a depot and move it again.
Ah, that's what's going on. I see. Right. All right. So a court order, Michael.
Yep. Oh, look, probably.
Yeah, I know. I think the for sale sign works much better. Yep.
You don't normally recommend guerrilla type tactics like that, David. I'm a bit surprised.
No, Virginia, I'm not prepared to skate as close to the edge of the law as other people. I just don't see. I see that as mildly irritating rather than interfering with someone else's rights.
I see that as the closest skating to the edge I've ever seen from you, David, which is very interesting to me. See what happens to us in our old age?
Yep.
You're in lockdown. Yes, you're trying to find things to amuse you. Helen in Ballarat, good morning.
Oh, hi, Virginia. How are you?
Well, go ahead.
David, please can you tell me, a Form 1, when I'm purchasing a property, is that legally binding, as I don't have my present home sold as yet?
Sorry, what's a Form 1?
Oh, a Form 1, sorry, I might be calling it wrong. It's I'm wanting to buy a home in South Australia, and the offer form, I think, has to be put together with a Form 1. It's the offer form, I suppose, I'm a bit more worried about. If I put in an offer in writing, is that binding?
It might well be that when you sign an offer it's an offer to purchase, yes, it would be, but what you would do is you would make it conditional.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you need to make sure that you're putting the right conditions on your offer.
Mm-hmm.
So you're far away.
I'm just wondering, is there particular wording that I should use in that?
Can I say, Helen, how much are you prepared? What's the value of your offer?
I'm prepared to offer 600,000. 600,000.
My recommendation is that if you're prepared to punt $600,000 on the basis of a call to a radio station, I'm surprised. All right, Helen, but what it would be, the advice I would give you is that this offer is conditional upon me entering into an unconditional contract for the sale of my property at your address for an amount of not less than Y dollars by a particular date. All right?
Good. Okay, good. Thank you very much, David. Yes.
So you need it not just to sell it, but that you get a price and that your offer needs to have an expiry date, which is the date by which your contract becomes unconditional on your sale.
Terrific. Thank you, David, and good luck, Helen. Hope that works out. Catherine in Wheelers Hill, what's your situation?
Hi, David. Hi. It's to do with a fence, and I know you're going to cringe at this.
I love fence stories. Go ahead.
Okay, so about 3 months ago, I think the 6th of June, we had that wild storm up in the Dandenongs, and we're near the Dandenongs, and our fence between our neighbours has fallen down completely, and we got the insurance out, and we got quotes, and we got a report, and my neighbour used the same report and quote to get their insurance claim paid, which they did. And once they were paid, they found out that they had a $1,000 excess. So now they don't want to pay the excess on the insurance, and they want me to pay for it. Goes back to when we were doing landscaping. He complained about retaining walls and the height of the retaining walls. We had a VBA ruling on it. We got all the permits. We've done everything correct. But he says this is compensation for us putting that one extra sleeper on top of the retaining wall, which it isn't an extra. But anyway, so he's using
Catherine, tell him to go away.
I have tried, but the fence is still down and nothing's happening, and it's really getting to the point where I don't know what to do next. I've been told mediation won't do anything because he's stubborn. And
is his insurance claim sufficient to put the fence up again, is it?
Well, with his excess, if he pays his excess of $1,000, yes. He's used the same quote. So the quote is for $5,000, $2,500 each. I got paid out, and I've got the money ready to go. And he got paid out, but he's got $1,000 less because he's got an excess of $1,000.
Yes. Okay.
And he won't repair the fence.
Then, Catherine, it's off to the. I'm encouraging court business this week.
You are.
So it's a magistrates' court. The jurisdiction for fencing disputes is the magistrates' court.
And that's where it goes?
And that's where it goes. You can't take those matters to VCAT. You take them to the magistrates' court, and you want the fence repaired. And he'll end up with an order for costs in your favour, and he'll still be out of pocket by more than his $1,000.
Yeah, that's right.
And I expect, will be out of pocket by less than the extra $1,000. All right?
Yes. Yeah. Also, I can ask for my costs if I have to go to magistrates' court to get this.
You probably won't get them all, but you'll certainly get most of them.
I'm sorry that we're sending everyone off to courts that they really don't have the time or the interest in attending, but that sounds like the best outcome for a lot of these cases today, David.
It is, unfortunately. You just haven't picked them properly today, Virginia. That's the problem.
Sorry. Can you blame my producers and not me?
Oh, no, I see you choose them. Don't worry about that. Yep.
Please, can you just blame my producers anyway? That would be
I'll blame your producers.
Thank you. A little more helpful.
Thank you.
See you next week, David. Thanks so much. Yeah. David Whiting there, Melbourne solicitor. And yes, sorry to be sending you off to the courts. That seems to be the majority of David's advice today.